Okay. Now, the next few things I want to show you guys are not functions, but they're more like things that you can do on Excel. And for this, we're going to start our dashboard. And we're going to build a dashboard here where there's two parts to it. The first part up here, we want to be able to select our department, and if we choose our department, we want to see the total sales in that department. And we want to see the total number of salespeople in that department. So the first thing I want to show you guys is how do you make a drop-down list in Excel. In order to make a drop-down list, the first thing you need is to have a master list somewhere. So we're going to create a new little worksheet. We'll call it data. Okay. And we're going to look at our initial thing. So you have a few departments here. What I'm going to do to make sure I don't miss any, I'm going to turn this whole thing into a table. So Command or Control A to select all of your data. Insert table. Okay. And now I have a table. So now I can click on department up here and see, okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 departments. Finance, HR, IT, marketing, and sales. So I'm going to make a list here. Finance, so I'm just write departments. Finance, HR, I forgot. Finance, HR, IT, marketing, sales, IT, marketing, sales, IT, marketing, sales. Okay, so go to your dashboard, go to wherever you want the drop down to be. Let me move my face. And then you click data here, and then data validation right here. And then you have to choose lists. Basically, data validation, what it is you set conditions or you set specific requirements for what the user is allowed to put into the cell. So we want the cell to only be a drop down. So you would choose a list. And what do you want the list to be? That's the source. So you click on this little icon here, and then you go find it. You go to your data, and you select, don't choose the header, the department. You just choose the actual departments. Hit enter. Hit OK. And now look, you have a beautiful drop down. So data validation, like I said, allows you to set requirements and prevent or prevent certain cells. I'll go off on a bit of a tangent here, but let's say you were trying to write, let's say you wanted a date here, okay? I'll put date. Well, I can set my data validation to only allow dates. And I can say I only want dates that are between, I don't know, but I guess I would probably have to have a data set for it. So let me make that. Okay, this is again just showing you guys something. Say Jan 1, 2015 to Jan 1, 2025. So if I wanted to set my data validation, date, I only want to have dates that are between this date and this date. Okay? So now if you try to set if you try to do anything else, look, if you try to write your name, nope, doesn't match what we want. If you tried to put a date that was not what they wanted, nope, doesn't match. So you see the point of data validation, that's all it is. You set conditions. You can go even a step further and you can customize the error alert. For instance, you could say, warning, you put the wrong thing, man. This would be funny if ever you're making one of these for work. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to try and put the date January 5th, 2026. Oh, customize error message. So the way you make a customized error message is data validation, and then you customize your message. Okay, so a bit of a tangent there, but you should know what data validation is though for your exam. It's just setting specific requirements for the cells and rejecting whatever doesn't fit with that. So now we've got the first bit of our thing here. We've got our different departments, but now I want these two cells here to react to this. So I want this one to add up all the sales for those specific departments. So the way that you would do this is by creating a SUMIF function. So it's like an if function where there's going to be a logical test, a logical condition, but then you're going to tell Excel, now based on that, go and add up certain things. So open, what is the range? So the range is, go to your sheet. We're going to select the department because this is the condition. The condition is the department. Let me move my face out of the way. Okay, comma. What is the criteria? What is it that we're going to look for? Well, we want, let's go to our dashboard, to go into the table and look for every time somebody was tagged as a marketing department. So the first bit of the SUMIF is the range that we're going to look into. It's not what we're adding yet, okay? It's what is the condition where, right? The second one is the condition itself. And then comma, the sum range. Okay, now that we've got that, what are we adding? So you're going to go and add up the total sales column. So you're basically telling Excel, look in, so the first part, go and look in this department column, look for whatever is here, and add up whatever is in that total sales column, and you can see that it did it here. My marketing department accounted for 2.6 million sales, and if I change this to HR, it changes, and if I change this to IT, it, come on now, changes, and sales, it changes, and so on. Okay, we also want to count how many salespeople we had in each one of these departments. So we're going to do now a COUNTIF. COUNTIF is the same as SUMIF. It's based on an if function, so if this, but now we just want it to count. So in Excel, the difference between Excel and Tableau and all these programs, you have sum and you have count. You use sum when you actually want every single point to be added, every value to be added, and you use count where you just want to know how many. So COUNTIF. All I need here is for Excel to go into the data and count how many times each of those departments shows up. So I'm choosing the column where I want it to go in and count, comma, what are we counting? We're counting whatever is in this cell. So the first bit is go look in this column. The second bit is count how many times you see this. And look, if I choose sales, I have 46 salespeople in sales. HR, 59. Finance, 61. IT, 79. Cool, right? Now you can go a step further here. Again, I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent, but I think it's a good one. I'm going to move this aside. Okay, just because I want some space. And what if I wanted to add another condition? Okay, let's call it year. I don't know what this is, by the way. This is just a little bug. Okay, whatever. And let's see what our data is. No, let's not do year. Let's do region. Hello. Let's do region. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a drop down. We'll do east, west, north, south. Let's create a drop down. So insert data validation. We'll choose list, and we want the list source to be this. Enter. Okay, cool. So now we got a region. What if I wanted the sales to not only be based on the department, but also on the region? Well, once you start to have multiple conditions that you want it to add up, you would use a function called SUMIFS with an S. So plural, basically. Look, SUMIFS, open bracket. First, it's going to ask you what is the sum range. The order is different. What are we adding up? Okay, well, we're adding up sales. So we're going to go back to our table, and we're going to add up our total sales. So I'm going to select that column first. Then, what is the first criteria range? Well, the first criteria range is the department. So I'm selecting department. So go and count in that department. Okay, and what is the criteria? Well, whatever is in this column. So sum range is where I'm adding, where I'm getting my numbers that I'm going to add up. Criteria range is what is the first column that I'm looking into for my conditions, comma, what is the condition? And then you do it again. So now the region, comma, what is the second criteria range? That would be this one right here. So we're looking in this range. What are we looking for? We're looking for whatever is in this cell. So look, now if I change east to west, now it's showing me IT, but for each region. Isn't that cool? Cool, right? And then same thing for count. I could make this COUNTIFs. So look, COUNTIFs, plural, open. So criteria range, what are we counting? Well, we're counting first the department. We're counting in there what the criteria is. So we're counting how many times this shows up. And then what is the second criteria? Well, the second criteria range would be the region, exactly the way we did it, guys. And we're counting this one. So now if I close it, it's going to tell me that IT in East has 19 salespeople. IT in South has also 19. And North, also 19. Okay, East, okay. It just so happens that it's all the same. Whatever, right? Like, that's totally fine. So you can see here for HR that it's actually different. Okay, so those are, look, there's a billion functions in Excel. These are the ones that I think or have seen be useful on the final, be useful in the multiple choice, and be the most useful, straight up, in life. Okay? We're not going to get into standard deviations and all that funky stuff. That's not really that useful. Okay, next, dashboards. Well, not the dashboards, but the interactive, an interactive dashboard. Because it would be easy for me to make a bar chart. Let's say, oh, I want to make a bar chart for, I don't know, the number of workers in each region. Okay, so I would start by, going here. I can count. Let me just show you what I'm saying. Okay, so let's say I were to choose to make a bar chart for anything, really. It's, I don't know, even this, right? The thing about or let's say a histogram. So the thing about a graph that's just taken by choosing your data and choosing graph is that this graph is a static graph now. Like it's nothing will change it. You can't click a button and have it change. So it's really not useful for something like a dashboard, which is meant to, look, I'm putting it here, guys, but the point is that if I wanted this to, like if I change this, for this to change with it, like you would see in a real life dashboard, that is not how you build your graph. The way you guys have to build your graphs to make interactive dashboards is by first creating a pivot table. That's step one. And every graph needs its own pivot table. We saw this in assignment 2, but in assignment 2 we were kind of just trying to figure out the assignment. But now I want you guys to really understand the steps to building a proper dashboard. And the first step to making anything interactive really is to make a pivot table. So we're going to have a bunch of pivot tables. So we have our data, Command A, I selected all my data, or Control A if you're on a PC. Insert pivot table. We want to put it in our data. So we're going to go existing worksheet. Click on this to say where you want it. I want it right here, okay? Press OK, press OK. Now we already did pivot tables during the crash, and that's why I'm putting this after. So I'm not going to really go through like, oh, how do you make a pivot table? But let's do something cool. So I want to make 3 graphs. I want the first one to be a bar chart, and I want the bar chart to be the number of employees in each region. So how would I do that? Well, first of all, I would want to have the regions, let's say as a column, and I would want to count the employees. So the way you would do that is by using employee ID. Why do you have to use employee ID? Because whenever you're counting something, you want to make sure that you're using a unique thing about each record, right? So you might have multiple employees with the same name. Who knows? You definitely have multiple employees from the same department, but each one will have a unique employee ID. So you put whatever it is that you want to count into the values. Okay. And now, oh, that's super weird. Like I definitely didn't have 161,000 employees. Why is that happening? Because look down here, it's adding up the employee IDs. Because the employee IDs were numerical, they're numbers basically, it's adding them up. So, okay, I don't want that. I want it to count. So you switch it. Click on this. Okay, switch it to count. Okay, boom. And now I know it's correct. So you've made your table. How do you turn this into a chart? Well, a couple of ways you can do this. One, from within your pivot table, up here you're going to see some, like when you don't have the pivot table selected, you'll see that those things go away. But when you do select it, you'll see some new things here. So design is just the look. We never mess with that. Who cares? Analyze has a bunch of useful stuff. Pivot chart right here, click, and usually bar chart is the default one. So there it is. I've got my bars for each department. And let's add a title to it. So we'll go format. This is or design, I should say. And I want to pick this format right here. We'll put number of sales people per department. And I want to add some data labels because I want to see exactly how tall they are. So we're going to add a data label. Data label basically just shows you what the values are. So look, if I choose to put it at the very top, beautiful. Okay, and then maybe we choose a nice, no, that's not nice. This is kind of nice. All right, cool, I like it. So now you want to move it, right? We're going to cut. So cut is Control or Command X. So I have it selected, Command X. Oh, it went away. Go back to your dashboard, paste. There it is. And we are going to add it right there. Okay, super. Now let's make a histogram. A histogram. So a histogram is for typically when you have continuous data. And let's do a histogram for average sales. It could be anything, but let's do average sales. So again, first, we're going to make a pivot table. A new one. You have to make a separate pivot table for each graph, okay? So Command A, insert, pivot table. Where do I want it? I want it in my data thing. I'll put it right here. Okay, good. So now when you're making histograms in Excel, well, I should say when you're making histograms for the purpose of a dashboard, even though Excel has a built-in histogram option, it actually doesn't work. So we're gonna have to do it a different way. So we said we want to make a histogram that shows the distribution of average sales, right? So let's go with average sales. We want that to be, so in order to make a histogram, you first need to have a frequency table. So this is what we'll do. We're going to move the average sales to the row. And now it's going to give me this. Now this is, I mean, this will, if I can go on forever, right? So there's, why? Because everyone had a different average. But when you make a histogram, you typically will group your data into bins or just, categories. So for instance, I want everybody between 1,000 and 2,000 to be in one category. That's how you're going to make your histogram. So now how do you group them into bins? Right click, group. And it's going to say, okay, well, what do you want? I want bins of 1,000. I want them starting at, you can start it at the lowest value by default. It's going to look like this. It'll just start at the lowest value and then go up by 1,000. Now, if you don't like how that looks, I don't. Maybe you want it to start at a nice round number. So we're going to start it at 6,000. Okay, turn this off. So start it at 6,000. Bins of 1,000. Okay, now it's nice. Cool. but it's not giving you a histogram yet. Now you just have your categories that are based on your average sales. So whatever you want to create the histogram for, put that in the row. And now you're saying go and count how many people were in each of these categories. So kind of like we did before, we want something unique, so we're going to take the employee ID. For this, you got to take the employee ID, click, drag it to values. Make sure you switch it to count. See, look, it's summing again. We don't want that. What's going on with my... I can't see that little... there it is. Count. And now you have exactly how many were in each one. So that's what I was saying. Now, if I technically go in here, select all this, insert histogram, it's going to tell me, nope, can't do that, sorry. So how do we make a histogram? You first have to make a bar chart, kind of like I did before. So we go to pivot table, analyze, pivot chart. It's going to turn into a bar chart, beautiful. And one of the pre-built, preloaded formats for the bar chart is actually a histogram. So if you go to quick layout, it's right here, click. Now it's a histogram. So we can write here distribution of average sales. And again, I want to follow that. I want to use that same format I used before because I thought it was really cool. Oh, that screwed it up. So what can we do here? It's there we go. This looks great in my opinion. Here we could put a title. We'll put average sales. Now here we could put nothing. We'll put nothing. Cool. Cut. Dashboard. Paste. Stretch it out so it fits. Awesome. You guys like that or what? Okay. Let's make one more, line chart. So line charts, and the reason I chose these guys is because these are the common ones. So line charts, typically we use them for anything that's a time series where you want to see it over time. So let's see what we have. The only date that I have would be a joining date. So maybe we want to make a line chart. A line chart showing the number. I wonder if I can make any line chart with this. Okay, here's what we'll do. We're going to make a line chart that shows quarterly sales, so Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, for each department. Now, we don't have that data, but we can make it. So let's start with a pivot table. Insert pivot table. Put it here. Okay, so again, I'm going to make a line chart that shows the sales per quarter for each department. So how are we going to do that? Well, I first need to have the department, so we'll put that as a row. Okay. I need to have the quarter, so I'm going to put that as the column. Not what I wanted. Oh yeah, well, so okay, no. You put it in the values. So look. Perfect. So now it's exactly what I wanted. Each department's quarterly sales. And now we're going to take this, turn it into a pivot chart. Now it's going to default to this clustered bar chart. It did it as a clustered one because you had more than just one set of categories. Before, you had one set of categories, region. Now you have multiple categories here and multiple categories here, so it made a clustered bar chart. But I want a line chart, okay? So the way you change it is we're going to right-click, change chart type to a line chart, and you can pick any one of these, doesn't matter. Let's say this one here, right? Okay, cool. So we've got our sales. They kind of look all the same, but so be it, right? And sum of sales Q1, sum of sales Q2. Now, let's say I don't like how that's written. I'm going to call this sales Q1, sales Q, or I'll just write Q1. You see, and by changing it there, you're changing it on the graph. Q3, Q4, Q4. And I want some of these colors to pop a little bit more, so I'm going to turn the green one. So I'm going to select the green line, format, outline, red, and shape fill red. That way the dots become red, but the line also becomes red. I don't see orange anywhere. What is orange? Oh, you know what? It's just bad, right? I wanted the quarters down here. It gave me the departments down here. So we're going to change that. So we need to change the way that it's pulling this data. So what we can do is select data. So this is what you do in a graph when the data, when it gives you the, like it chooses the wrong axes. That's what I'm trying to say. We're gonna just delete these. Look, we'll just get rid of this completely. Okay, I can't do that. Oh, okay, I know what we'll do. We'll just switch these axes. So we'll actually move the department to the column, and we will take this, put it here. Aha, there you go, that's what we wanted. So I've got my different departments. This is exactly what I wanted. I'm gonna pick my my design that I liked before. And now let's say the axes here, right? I want to show you guys, what if, you know, you didn't really want it to start at 0 because all of this empty space. What I want to show you next is how you format your axes. So if you double click on it, you're going to get on the right here, format axis, and you can actually choose axis options. Where should it start? Do you want it to start at 0? No, I want it to start at 400K because there was nothing below 400K. So I'm going to set 400K there, and look, boom. Starts at 400K, everything spreads out a little bit more, which I think is super nice. But then you can also choose to make the form, like, you know, you can put this in dollars. So if you go to number down here, this is showing you, well, the numbers that you have in your axes, like what do you want that format to be? I want a currency so that I see it in dollars. Okay, it's cool. You can play with the commas, you can play with the decimal places. Like I don't want decimal places, so I'm gonna go down here, set my decimal places to 0. And when you have it the way you want it, like we did before, cut, dashboard, paste, it's there. Okay, you can stretch it out, and now we didn't put a title on it though. I should have maybe done that. So let's add a chart title, and we're going to call it sales per department per quarter. Okay, cool. So we've made our dashboard. It's not interactive yet, but that's where slicers come in. Think of slicers as filters. So the way you make a filter, a slicer that you can put directly on your screen, first you have to have either a pivot table or a pivot chart selected. Otherwise, you can't see the option. So I'm going to just choose one of these graphs. Okay, pivot chart. Now it's going to pop up. Insert slicer. Click. And now this is where, okay, we want to create filters. Now I want us to make 3 slicers, one where I can choose the department. So I would choose department here, and as soon as I press OK, you're going to see this slicer pop up, and it is showing you all of the different categories of departments. And now what if I wanted to have I wanted to make it look a certain way? Not the best either. Okay, I'm not overly concerned about this. I don't care too much. Let's make it orange. Okay, you see? So now what exactly is this? Look, if I press IT right now, what it's going to do, look at the graph right under it. It changes it. That's cool, right? So that's what I wanted. I wanted to build it in a way where if I press a button, something's going to happen, but it's not happening on the other graphs. And this is really important, guys, because if you get a dashboard question, this is a very important step. The reason that it's only changing this graph is because this is the graph that I had clicked on when I built a slicer. But what you need to do next is report the connection. So you want to tell this slicer, hey, when I click on you, make sure you change all of these graphs. So the way you do that is by right-clicking on the slicer, report connections, and you choose all of your pivot tables. So now look, HR, IT. Is that cool or what? Okay, now, if ever you wanted to pick more than one thing in the slicer, the way that you do it, I think, is by holding Shift. Well, you can do, actually not Shift, but Command or Control. So let's say I want HR and marketing. The way I did that, I pressed HR, and then holding Control or Command, I pressed marketing. So now it's both of them. If you want to get rid of it, this little button here. Okay. Let's make another slicer for year. Now you guys kind of get the sense. So click any one of these. Okay, so we're going to make another slicer now. We're going to click on here, pivot, insert slicer, and we're going to make one for year. Oh, we don't have year. So what do we do? Well, actually, we just changed it, right? Because there's no use for year. So let's pick a different slicer. Let's pick. We did department. Do we have one for region? We have one for region. And maybe low and high performer. Okay, sure. So let's change this to high, low performers. So click slicer. We want high, low performer to be our category. Click. There it is. Go ahead and fit it so it's nice. Change the format to be consistent with the other one. And now same thing. We need to report the connections to all of them. So now if I choose low performer, you see, it'll give me low performer, and high, it gives me that. Super. And now let's do one more for region. So we'll get rid of that filter. Click on any one of your pivot charts, insert slicer, and region. Okay. I don't know where it went. So let's try that again. Insert slicer, region. Okay. There it is. Go ahead and fit it right here. Report the connection to all of them. And now there it is. And we can ask you a bunch of questions, like, you know how it is, right? So they'll say something like, you know, how many salespeople worked in IT, or how many high performers did we have in the North region in the IT department? So you say, okay, IT department, high performer, North, 7. Right? So answering the questions is really just going to be after that a matter of using your dashboard. Okay? So that's what I wanted to show you guys here. I'm just thinking now, if I showed you everything that I wanted to show you, I showed you how to make drop-down lists, I showed you how to make a dashboard, I showed you how to connect these things together, how to use various functions that I think are super useful. Let me check my list. One last little thing that I want to show you, and it's not really related to the dashboard. It's more named. It's more to do with, you know, sometimes you have one particular region in your data set that you need to reuse over and over again. And I want to show you guys how to make a named array. A named array is basic. So look, when I select, I don't know, let's say this column here. I don't know why that didn't work. Actually, I'm going to make a new data set. I'm just going to go off on a bit of a tangent unrelated to the data we're doing. But let's say you had, I'm just going to make some random numbers. So rand between 0 and 100. Okay. Whatever, right? So a bunch of random numbers here. And let's say, for example, that I wanted to do a bunch of different calculations. So I wanted to know the average. I wanted to know the total. I wanted to know the standard deviation. I wanted to know the, whatever, a bunch of stuff, right? Well, what you would normally do is average, select, and then go pick all of it, close. And then here I want, let's say, the sum. You go, you pick all of it, close, and then the standard deviation. Right? So now what if that's annoying for me? Like, I don't want to have to sit there and go and select all of it. So what you can do is the following. Select all of the data that you keep having to go back to. And if you look at the top left right here, in this little, look at my cursor where it says A1 there. I'm going to click in there. And I'm going to type, I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to write here data. Okay? I'm giving it a name. Enter. Okay? So now, look. Instead of having to do that, I can just do this. Average, bracket, look, data. And it knows that when I write data, this is called a named array, to always go and take that exact data. Okay? So named array, data, see? Yeah, so I hope that you guys found this useful. Like I said, both for your exams, but also for life. If you have any questions, if there's anything more you'd like me to add, hopefully you're not watching this the night before your exam if you want to participate in what I'm about to say. But if there's other things that you'd like me to show you, like, oh, you know, I saw this, but just let me know. I'm happy to make these videos. Don't take me long to make. I'm happy to hop on the camera, give you guys some more tutorials on this. So that's it for this session. Good luck. Thank you again. See you next time.